everybody, this is Carolina Millan, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Hustle. And today we are here with Jackie Woodside, all the way from upstate New York. How are you, Jackie?
I'm awesome. Glad to be in upstate New York in the middle of a hot summer when most people are, well, summer for me, winter for you, though, in Chile.
Oh, there you go. Yes. So Jackie is a consciousness teacher. I'm actually very excited to talk about this topic. We have not talked about it yet on the podcast. And she's also a best-selling author of 3 books. She will tell us a lot more about that and what she does. So Jackie, why don't you start by giving us a little bit of background, how you started teaching consciousness, what is this journey, and anything you want to share about.
Yeah, great. Well, let's just dive in. I want to get into some good content here, make this really valuable for people. So my background actually is that I was a therapist, a psychotherapist for about 30 years. And about 10 years ago, so I really know human beings deep and broad. If there's anything I know, it's human beings. And about 10 years ago, I got really interested in how the way people perceive their situations is really what causes their suffering. After 30 years of psychotherapy, listening to people hour after hour after hour talk about various life things, and if I had to boil all of it down to what was causing people's suffering, whether it was addictions or illegal behavior or bad relationships or depression, whatever it was, it's like you could kind of boil it down to where things began is people's perceptions of what was happening around them. Now, that's not to say that there are not medical conditions that cause mental health problems. There are. That's a whole different conversation. But, kind of for the average Joe, the worried well on the street, what causes angst and suffering is our consciousness. And how I define that is our beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts all wrapped into one thing. Mm-hmm. So that's how I define consciousness. I call it your beat: beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. Your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts is what creates your vibe. Your beat creates your vibe. So anyway, so that was, about 10 years ago. And since then I've written, like you said, 3 books, probably a dozen training curriculums. And I've done keynote addresses all over US and Canada and led retreats and done professional development training all around this notion of, if you want to be more productive, if you want to make more money, if you want to have better relationships, change your consciousness, change your vibe. I say your consciousness is your vibe.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So how does that change even begin? Like, what is the first step?
Yep, sure. Really simple, actually. See, a lot of what I teach is so simple that people will have the tendency to maybe disregard it. And so what I say to people is, what I teach is incredibly simple, but not at all easy.
Yeah, they're not synonyms.
They're not synonyms. So the first step in being able to change or raise your vibe or your level of consciousness is simply, you're gonna roll your eyes when I say this because you know the answer already. It's self-awareness. You cannot change what you cannot or are unwilling to see. So that's one of my catchphrases. You cannot change what you cannot or are unwilling to see. Mm-hmm. So as a therapist, I often would work with people, let's say, who were alcoholics. And I would maybe start asking some questions about their drinking and the impact on their drinking. And they'd be like, yeah, no, I really don't think it's a problem because, everybody around me drinks like I do. So that sense of awareness being deflected, like I'm not the problem, your perception of me is the problem. I worked with sex addicts, men in particular, male sex addicts, who'd been fired from jobs, who'd been arrested by the police, who were like, yeah, no, you just don't understand male behavior. That's just what men do. Huh. So self-awareness is this, again, I say the stuff I say is simple, but not easy, because self-awareness itself requires a degree of humility and introspection that most people don't have. Most people who are wrapped in the throes of some kind of life challenge tend to say, oh, I'm having this difficulty because, my parents are doing this, or my kids are doing that, or my boss is doing this. I can't tell you, like, I've definitely done my 10,000 hours of sitting with human beings, listening to their life issues, right? And then some, right? 10,000 hours of mastery is what I'm referring to.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't remember ever a client coming in to see me for psychotherapy or for coaching for that matter and saying, yeah, I've got this major issue in life and here's kind of what it looks like. And I want to figure out how I'm the root of this problem. Never, like never. People come in talking about their external circumstances
Mm-hmm.
as if that's the problem.
Mm.
Now, look, I'm not going to say that, that it doesn't take something to interact well with other people, plays well with others, takes something. But what most often happens is people, rather than having self-awareness, they project their discomfort onto other people and say, that's the reason I'm having this trouble. So self-awareness really means the ability to say, no matter what the circumstance is, how am I contributing to this? What is this saying about me? A lot of people will say, oh no, I'm very self-aware. I'm really clear that when they do this and that I get annoyed, or if people do this, I get impatient. So I'm aware of that. But the deeper question is, okay, but what is it about you that you get impatient or annoyed about that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just observing yourself, it's observing and understanding yourself so that you can do the next steps and lead to change.
Okay. How do you move people from that state of, looking for external factors to blame into the, okay, maybe I am the root of the problem?
Yeah. Well, of course, you have to do that, with a great deal of compassion and gentleness, because I'm sure you know this, the mechanism of the human psychology is that we all have, it's called these defense mechanisms, these defensive structures, because at the root of our personality lies this very fragile sense of ego, of who I am, my identity. And none of us want that identity to be messed with, particularly at a lower level of consciousness when you feel like you're just surviving and everything is hard and life is coming at you. People want to protect that. And so therefore the problem's out there, not over here with me. So it's with a lot of gentleness and compassion, but it's simply through asking questions like, that's interesting. Okay, I understand that you're angry about that. What is it about you that has you be angry about that? Well, what do you mean? What is it about me? They're this way. They're that way. Yeah, got it. They are that way. You're right. You're the one I'm coaching though. So let's talk about you. So with those kind of gentle reframes, and people go, well, I don't know. My favorite one. Well, I don't know. It just makes me mad. And my favorite line is, okay, but if you did know, what would it be? Because the topic is you. So I don't know what it is simply a defense against not wanting to feel fragile, feel vulnerable, and feel exposed. But when people feel safe and loved and seen and respected, there's room and there's space for that openness to come in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, there are many situations where, of course, the environment is not the best one, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you deal with, with cases where people are, maybe they are self-aware and everything, but they are in this environment that is not supporting them? How can they still thrive in that case?
I mean, it depends on how far, when you say the environment is not supporting them, let's kind of take a more moderate one rather than say political unrest or dangerous situations,
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, your immediate environment, maybe family, maybe, things like that.
Sure. Again, I was a therapist for 30 years. So I dealt with women who didn't want to leave domestic violence situations, so I've worked on the extremes. I've dealt with men who were violating their probation, going overseas so they could still do horrible things with people they shouldn't be doing, anyway, I've worked in horrible situations. So the average, I don't like my coworkers, or I'm in a hostile work environment, right? That kind of thing where your environment really is difficult. I say a couple of things. One is avoid the negaholics as best you can. And the negaholics are those people that no matter what's happening, they're going to find what's wrong with the situation. They're going to complain about the situation. So if you find yourself surrounded by people who fit that description of a negaholic, you might want to look in the mirror, because like attracts like on the energetic plane. And if you're surrounded by negaholics, you might want to, kind of look, am I complaining a lot? Am I blaming other people a lot? So that's number one. Avoid the negaholics like the plague. And if you notice that you are surrounded by them, look in the mirror and see, are there things about yourself that you want to change? Second thing is find an ally in the workplace or the family, like one other person who's willing to kind of be a high vibe, high consciousness, optimistic, grateful person, and find one other ally, because having two people in a culture, a workplace setting, or a family, it just gives you more strength. So find an ally, agree with that ally that you will not participate in the negativity, and then third, start telling people that, hey, I know it really sucks around here, but I've decided I'm just not going to talk about it any longer. And just say it, not like they're a jerk and you're being all superior, but just kind of hey, I know it's just me, I just don't like that kind of talk. Let's see what we can do to make it better around here. I just have to be that way. I'm that rose-colored glass gal. But if the more you do that, the less people will come to you with their negativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, something that people ask me a lot, since I talk a lot about entrepreneurship, starting a business, and I have a lot of people that tell me, well, what if, my parents are not supportive, or my spouse is not supportive, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's not that simple, right? When your coworkers, you can change jobs, but you cannot change families that easily. So what are some tips or advice you can give people who are in that situation?
Yeah. So a couple things you can do when it's your spouse or your parents, people that you can't just kind of get away from, is first of all, just having an open-hearted conversation of like, hey, you know what? I get that you don't agree with this. I get it. Thank you for letting me know that. And I really want to tell you this is super important to me. So even though you don't agree, can you get on board for me? And then if they keep coming with negativity, here's what I suggest. It's very simple and deadpan. Again, what I teach is very simple, but it takes some self-empowerment. If they keep coming at you with negativity, I would simply say, you know what, I'm finding this disrespectful because I've asked you to get on board with me. And when you keep coming at me with this negativity, I'm finding that to be disrespectful, and that hurts my feelings. Could you not do that any longer? I just used that one yesterday with someone in my family that will remain nameless. Literally, I just used that yesterday. And you know what? She stopped. She just stopped. She stopped. And in fact said, you know what? It was disrespectful. And she stopped. So people have more authority than they are willing to admit sometimes. Sometimes the complaint is more comfortable than the self-empowerment. So, ask yourself that too. Am I more comfortable with my complaint than I am with my self-empowerment? And be willing to tell the hard truth. Like, yeah, I kind of like complaining, or it's more comfortable to complain than to confront. And if you're willing to give up your complaint, which means raise your consciousness, raise your vibe, then you can, again, in the normal kind of uncomfortable, not in the, the extremes. In the normal uncomfortable, for the most part, people will respond when you speak up. Hey, I didn't really like that. Hey, that hurt my feelings. Again, not like yelling at people, not making them wrong. You're such an idiot. Why can't you get on board with me? No, that's not going to go well. I promise you, that's not going to go well.
Yeah. So always like in a tone that really expresses. Yeah. The tone.
I am the master of deadpan. Deadpan is a tone. It's non-emotional, non-judgmental, just flat and direct. And in employment situations, when you're giving performance feedback, or in family or personal relationships, when you're setting limits and having boundaries, really that's all I did yesterday was I established a boundary. I said something and got met with this, hostile reply, and just said, that was disrespectful, and I would like it if you didn't do that.
And it worked.
It worked, right? So just, speak up, tell the truth, and do it in a way that's not superior, that's not condescending, that's not hurtful. And you
absolutely.
can, you can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised.
Yes. Now, again, there are outliers of people be like, well, I don't care if that hurt your feelings. You're doing a really stupid thing. I would say, okay, well, that was disrespectful too. I understand that that's your opinion. I appreciate that. I don't share that opinion. And would you please stop? Well, you just keep talking down to me. That's not my intention. No, like, no, I don't care. I mean, if you can remove yourself and actually watch the drama ensue, it can be really good comedy. Like when people just can't get it, or people like whatever, people can say whatever, and they'll be like a screen to let that go through you. If you get hooked, you're screwed.
Exactly.
If you get hooked, then you'll escalate and it'll turn into a fight and it'll be ugly. And then you have all this cleanup that you have to do. Just don't get hooked. Like, let people, this is one of my favorite coaching distinctions. Let people be who they are because they're going to be anyway.
True.
So if your parents are disapproving, well, they're probably going to be disapproving. Set limits.
There you go. Yeah. That is, again, simple doesn't equal easy, but
yes, it is not easy. And it's not, see, this is the other thing that people make a mistake about. This is not a one-time fix. It's not like if you set limits once, then they're going to be supportive of you. No, they're probably not going to be. It means you have to set limits again and again and again and speak your truth and ask for support, or ask that they stop being negative and critical. You have to do that over and over. But really, when you are able to do the same thing over and over, setting limits, asking, not to be critical, asking for support, you do the same thing over time, slowly and incrementally, it does change.
Mm-hmm. It's a work in progress. And if you're consistent, you should see the result.
You absolutely, it will go one way or the other. Either they'll be just like, screw it, and they will disengage from you. Well, okay, problem solved. Or they will get on board and at least be more neutral than negative.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's all about raising consciousness.
Yeah. So what are talking about exactly that, raising consciousness? What are some steps, like daily, I don't know if routines or rituals or questions that people should apply, or what should I ask myself every day, or how should I start my day to raise my consciousness?
Sure. I mean, it starting your day is one thing, but this literally, raising consciousness is a minute to minute endeavor. So I teach a 3-step formula for raising consciousness that people love. Again, very, very simple. People love how simple it is. The challenge is that you have to do it every single freaking minute. And it's a 3-step process that I call catch it, challenge it, and change it. It has to do with your thoughts and your conversations. So catch it. You can probably assume what that means. Notice yourself. Oh, yep, there I go again, down that rabbit hole, down that negative spiral, down in that negative loop of, oh, God, why do I even try this? It's never going to work out, and things don't work out for me. Oh, and then, so you, without seeing it, you won't be able to do the next step, which is challenge it. Mm-hmm. What you got going on over there?
I have to plug my computer.
Oh, good. The second one is challenge it. So you have to be able to see it, first of all, and then challenge it. And it's simply this: ask yourself, like, okay, where's that thinking going to lead? Where's that response to that person going to lead? Is that the outcome that I want to create? Is that the truth? So these are a series of questions. The challenge it part. Challenge it means debunk it. Go back and say, like, hey, is that what you want? Is that the truth? What outcome is that going to produce? Is that the outcome you want? You've been doing and saying that same thing for 50 years, 30 years. Is it produce the outcome you want? No. So you challenge it, like, oh, wow, that's really a messed up way to think. I probably should stop that. Which is the 3rd step, change it. Okay, good. What kind of thinking is going to support me in having the experience I want to have? Mm-hmm. And then you think that way. Like, okay, no, I got this. Just for today, I got this. I'm going to take this next step just for today. Just for today, I'm going to talk back to my parents and ask them to stand down and not be so disrespectful. Just for today. Like, just, change the thought just for now. Because I don't know how else to say this. People so meditation is a great tool to use these steps. And people are like, oh, I tried meditation before. I couldn't do it. Well, no, that's the whole point. So it's this, that's the whole point. Like nobody can just sit like, oh, okay, I'm going to have my mind be blank now. What am I having for lunch? Am I done yet? Am I doing this right? Like that's like, oh, wait, you know, my thoughts are getting away with me. Come back to my breath. And then 2 seconds later, your thought come back. So it's the same thing with this catch it, challenge it, change it process. It's constant because our thoughts are habitual. You have about 40,000 thoughts a day. 80 to 90% of them are the same thoughts. So your thoughts are deeply habitual, and changing how you think and feel is harder than most people realize. And it's very simple. You practice those 3 steps and your thinking will change, your relationships will change, your health will change, your level of stress will change. And that's really all, that's it. Those 3 steps. Notice your thinking, challenge your thinking, change your thinking. Notice the feeling, challenge the feeling, change the feeling. It's really that simple, but people want it to be hard, or there's got to be something more. So I'll do the next workshop, or I'll take the next class. Nope, it's just wicked hard to change your neural pathways.
Yeah, newsflash.
Newsflash, right? It's really hard to change your neural pathways. It's like you've walked down the same path 1,000 times in a forest, right? And you go down that path 1,000 times. It's super easy to go down that path because it's all trodden and it's all beaten down. That's like your brain. And then you go to that same forest and you're like, oh, I'm not going to go down the path today. I'm going to go around this way. That's wicked hard because you have to beat things down and back and, you know, cut things and get through the forest a different way. That's your brain. You try to, oh, no, I'm not going to think that way any longer. It's like, what do you mean? You'll be more tired. You'll be more irritable. That's why children sleep way less than adults. I'm sorry, way more than adults, because children don't have these ruts in their brain, these neural pathways established. So they're more tired. They have to sleep more. You take on trying to think differently, trying to be more productive, try to be more positive, you know, anything about changing how you think or behave, and you should feel more tired and more irritable. If you don't, you're not really working hard enough. Right? But then when you're tired and irritable, you think like, oh, this isn't working. I'm grumpy all the time. Ah, good, it's working.
That makes sense. And in fact, I remember a few years ago, I went to this Tony Robbins seminar, and it was, it's called Life Mastery, and it's meant to help you detox and change your diet and all that stuff. So we were there for 5 days. And they told us on the first day, listen, as you go through this detox and this juicing and you're not eating sugar or solids, you will get irritable and grumpy.
And you'll think something's wrong here.
And you'll think, yeah, something's wrong. Right. And it was so true. I experienced that. And then once, like on the 3rd, 4th day, I started to feel good again. So
yeah, exactly right. It's the exact same thing. You will start to feel good again. You know, at some point when you hit that tipping point, it's like, wow, you know, what was I so upset about? Because your brain will change. Your brain will change.
Correct. Yeah. How do you keep that? How do you keep it up? For me personally, one of the hardest things for me is to start something or practice and be consistent with it. So, for example, journaling or meditating or whatever. What is your advice like for people to keep going and not stop?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, that's not to say that you never stop practice and take on a new practice, right? But if you have a commitment to a new practice and you want to keep up with it, you know, so I mean, I teach and train a lot of things around this. I teach and train coaches in a program called Life Design. And the whole premise of that program is to design your life from the inside out based on who you came here to be. So based on your deepest values, your personal mission, your life purpose, and to bring that forth into the living of your life every single day. And it's, you know, to me, it's the most empowered way to live. It increases happiness, decreases stress, increases sense of meaning and fulfillment. It's just a lovely, lovely way to live. So for me, you know, I have a ton of practices that I engage in, and the practices fulfill my life design, which make me happier, more fulfilled, and less stressed. So it's like, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I do those things? I want that quality of life. So if you begin with the end in mind, then you start the practices and you stay focused on the end. But the problem is most people don't stay focused on the end. They're like, I want to feel good now. And a new practice, no matter how good the practice is, a new practice doesn't feel good now. So that's, kind of my global answer is to ground the practices inside of a larger context of a life purpose, life meaning, life direction. That's the first thing. The more specific answer is, because most people don't do that without support, is, get a coach or an account. If you can't afford a coach, get an accountability buddy. Easy to find. There's tons of people on Facebook or social media who are into accountability. Mm-hmm. And so you hook up with an accountability buddy and you empower them to hold you accountable to doing what you said you would do. Yeah. Those two structures of getting clear on what's the end in mind, why did I come here, who am I here to be, and what life structures will support that, and having accountability. I mean, it's the keys to the kingdom. I call it, it's the formula for living in the domain of miracles.
Absolutely. I'm curious about what are some of the practices that you yourself
my
follow?
Practices. Yeah, sure. So I'm a daily meditator. I meditate every day. I would be a crazy person without it. So I do 20 minutes twice a day. I have, for many years, I've kept a gratitude journal, and usually in the mornings, every morning, I write down, thank you, God, today I'm so grateful for. And then I go through and, I have so many things to be grateful for. I don't write just 3 or 5 things. I fill a whole notebook page. Great. Things that I'm grateful for. Yeah. So that really is a mindset, setting activity of really what's working about my life. So I meditate. I have a gratitude practice. I do a spiritual reading every day. So I've read like literally thousands of books on science and spirituality. I am the consummate science and spirituality geek. So infusing my mind with that high consciousness, high vibe reading sets my mind for the day. I'm vegetarian. I think that's also a part of my choice of living a high consciousness life. I don't want to participate in the animal food industry and what happens, the energy of the slaughterhouses, the energy and the fear of the animals, not to mention the chemicals that they're filled with. So my choice I'm very mindful about the energy that I consume. I don't watch television. I can count on one hand how many movies I've seen in the last 5 years. And that's not to say that the entertainment industry is bad per se, but I really want to be mindful about what I put in my mind. Yeah. And I want to be very mindful about what I put in my body. So those two principles guide a lot of my other choices. It guides what I read. It guides what I eat. It guides the people I spend time with. A lot, and it guides what I consider to be entertainment.
Absolutely. I mean, that is subjective, like for me as well.
Of course. Yeah. I don't have judgments about, obviously I'm the outlier here, there's billions of dollars that are getting spent on, things on the internet and media and what people call entertainment. I just don't find what most people consider entertainment to be entertaining.
Exactly.
I don't find violence entertaining. I don't find, dropping F-bombs every third sentence entertaining. I find, stimulation and being challenged and thinking about big problems and solving them and, and people who are up to that to be entertaining.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a personal choice. And for me, it's a bit similar in many aspects. What people think is entertaining is not to me. But yeah, I respect that. I respect, whatever people choose is their choice. Absolutely.
Yeah. Unless it's my 14-year-old son, and then I get to choose. Just say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you get to say something. So you said you read thousands of books or something like that.
I have. I once told my spouse that we needed an addition to our house because I needed more space for my books.
There you go. So what are maybe the top 3 books you recommend? And of course, I'd love for you to also tell people about your books.
Oh, sure. Gosh, when you've read thousands, it's a little, and honestly,
comes first to mind.
Right. The stuff that first leaps to mind, I don't think is for kind of your average consumer of a spiritual reading. I mean, I read really intense stuff. So the first one that leapt to mind is a book by Dr. David Hawkins that is called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, A Path Toward Enlightenment. A fantastic read. And, you plan to spend some time with it. It will absolutely paint a picture for you about how to raise and elevate your consciousness. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. And it's kind of written scientifically and blah, 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 but fantastic book. Second one that leapt to mind is How God Changes Your Brain. Came out about 5 or 10 years ago. Both of these are a little bit on the older side. How God Changes Your Brain. It's not really about God. It's actually about how beliefs impact your brain. And then there's a section in the back of that book about the top 10 things to do for brain health, which I found really, really fascinating. Yeah. And then the third one I just read more recently by Dawson Church. Did I say who? So the first was by Dr. David Hawkins. Second one, How God Changes Your Brain. Mark Waldman. I can never remember their names. But Mark Waldman, anyway, How God Changes Your Brain. And the third one is by Dawson Church called Mind to Matter. Again, kind of a scientific book about how our thoughts impact molecular movements and structures, and how your brain patterning is creative. So my whole thing is about consciousness and changing your inner world, because that changes your brain patterning, which has a vibratory pattern. So I call it your vibe. When your vibratory pattern is very high, you literally create different life circumstances than when your vibratory brain pattern is more in the negative range.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm gonna look up the books and put the links in the description for people to look them up. I'll look them up as well.
They're all great books. And they wouldn't be, if you asked me what are some good books to begin with, they would not be the ones that I would necessarily point to. Although How God Changes Your Brain, I think, is more of is a good beginner book, actually, that has some really good science in it.
All right, good. So that would be, out of the three, that would be maybe the one you recommend to start with.
Yeah. If people haven't read anything about this, really, God, what you're saying is really interesting. How can I learn more about that? That's a really good one to begin with. Very easily. It's an easy read, more written for a lay consumer. It's a great, easy read, and still really clearly describes the science behind this.
Excellent. And what about your books?
So I have 3 books. Yeah, I have 3 books. One is called Time for a Change, Essential Skills for Managing the Inevitable. We're all going to, change is the only thing that's a constant in life. And yet, people often have
don't like it.
What's that?
That it's the only constant, but people don't like it.
But people don't like it, which is kind of silly, right? So yeah, that was my first book. It's called Time for a Change. And it's the first half is about dealing with change that comes unexpectedly. The second half is about creating change that you want to create, but you haven't been able to. So great little easy book, easy to read, written for, kind of lay reader. Second one is called Calming the Chaos. It's a guide to managing your energy rather than your time. So I say Calming the Chaos is the best holistic approach to productivity and stress management that there is out there, because it is really all about learning to manage your energy. So it is a killer productivity course that will help you get more done with greater peace of mind than any other course out there. I've taught it all around the US and Canada. It is my most highly sought after program. So that the website for that is calmingthechaos-book.com, calmingthechaos-book.com. And then the third book of mine is called Money Vibe, How to Know Financial Freedom, Whether You Have Money or Not. Mm-hmm. So all of my books, Time for a Change, Calming the Chaos, and Money Vibe, really what they all are is they're essays on consciousness, how to raise your consciousness about the 3 things that really get people worked up in life: time, money, and change. Time and money are the things that people most keep up at night, and unexpected change or trying to create change in life. Those are the 3 big ones. Mm-hmm. So I basically wrote how-to manuals on how to have peace with all 3 of those.
Excellent. Can you give us just one little advance on the money one? I think most of my audience will be interested in that part. Yeah.
The Money Vibe it's a great book that helps you look at what is your vibe, your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts about money, In fact, if people want to get comfortable, get a little experience with the principles, I have a free giveaway that's at moneyvibemethod.com. There's a 30-day challenge where people set an intention for how much unexpected income they want to bring into their life in 30 days. And then they get an email with a daily affirmation, action, and intention. They have to go do a little thing and think a certain way and hold an intention for the day inside of this bigger intention of, I want to bring in $500, $5,000, whatever, over the next 30 days. I just completed one like 2 days ago. It was the first time that I had a $30,000 month, $30,000 in 30 days. But I also have $52,000 of proposals that I wrote in the same month. So I had $30,000 of unexpected income come in, and around, it was like 29,738 or something like that. I keep track to the dime. And $52,000 of new business in proposals that are out. And it's all about how the energy of your mindset is creative and creates a vibratory pattern. So moneyvibemethod.com, right on that website, is a place for a free 45-minute webinar that you can learn the principles of Money Vibe, and the free 30-day Money Vibe challenge. But fundamentally, it's, how you raise your money vibe is you start noticing it every time you think and say, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. Or you feel that sense of constriction. Constricted energy is what blocks flow. And when you're in that constricted energy, so rather than saying, I can't afford that, I just say, I'm not choosing to spend my money that way right now. It's just a higher vibe, more affirming way to think and feel about money.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So in the book, a Money Vibe book, I have people write their own money manifesto, creating your own beliefs that are more high vibe, high consciousness about money that you want to create. And I guide people in how to do that. I have people create their own money values. What is it that they really want money for that's going to support their higher purpose in life? It's a great book. Excellent. If you like this kind of topic. It is not a book on personal finance, just so people know. Money Vibe absolutely. About personal finance. Yeah. There's a lot of other good authors out there for that.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is about probably more about the relationship with money. And
it's about your relationship with money. Yeah. And calming the chaos is about your relationship to time. We have a consciousness about everything. We have a consciousness about fitness. We have a consciousness about family. We have a consciousness about money. Some things were very high vibe, some things were very low vibe. Exactly. When you start understanding the world through energy, you can literally learn to raise your vibe about everything in life.
Absolutely. So, Jackie, thank you so much for your time today, for everything you have shared. I will definitely place the links in the description for your challenge and your books so people can check them out.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other way people can contact you?
Yeah, sure. My website, JackieWoodside.com, another one that you can put in the links. And then you can find me on all social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, JackieWoodside.com. I'm sorry, YouTube.com/JackieWoodside, Facebook.com/JackieWoodside Speaker. So Instagram.com/JackieWoodside Speaker. There's a lot of, I have links for all of those places. If you Google me, you'll find me, put it that way.
Excellent. Any final words of advice, inspiration for people wanting to raise their consciousness and also the consciousness of the planet, which is something you mentioned as well in the form.
Yeah. What I want to say about that is that being an entrepreneur and, having a hustle is, I think, the most rewarding way to live and to be in the world. And, pursuing your passions, pursuing your challenges in life, even when it's not easy, is, I just think when you maintain a high vibe of this is what you're here to do, and you'll never have a challenge that you also don't have the wisdom and strength to overcome. And just living from that place. I say in my vibe work when I'm training coaches that there are no problems in life. Everyone has circumstances, but whether or not it's a problem depends on your level of consciousness. So yep, I know you'll be met with all kinds of circumstances in your path toward being an entrepreneur, but just know that you can take those on as a challenge and not a problem, and it'll be a whole lot nicer ride.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So thank you so much for your time. It was awesome. And thanks to everybody for spending time with us today. I hope you got value. And make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, reach out to Jackie and myself on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, if you have any additional questions or anything else you want to share. And yeah, thank you
I
so
want to
much.
hear from people.
Yeah, I love hearing from people.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Send me an email, Jackie@JackieWoodside.com. That's the other place to hear from me. I'd love to hear from people.
Excellent. We will. So I look forward to hear from you again. We'll keep in touch, definitely. And thank you. Thank you once again. Talk to you soon.
You bet.